Hello friends, welcome to the analysis of questions of Mains 2020, and I'm going to take up the international relations segment questions. So recently we have had the mains exam of UPSC 2020, and under this in GS paper 2 international relations gets covered, and let us see the year-wise trend of questions. So in 2013 we can see that from international relations almost 80 marks questions came, but it came down to 62.5 marks in 2014, and from then we can say that from 2015 to 2020 it has been consistently 50 marks, and the distribution has been 2 questions of 15 marks and 2 questions of 10 marks. So total is 50. So total is 50. And this has been the trend. And even in this year's mains, we have had 2 questions of 15 marks, which was dealing with India-US and India-Russia, a comparison of the defense relationship in the context of Indo-Pacific. And another question of 15 marks was on Quad, that how it is transforming from just being a military alliance or a military or security grouping to a economic grouping as well. So that was on Quad, again 250 words and 15 marker. So these 15 marker questions are to be written in 250 words, while the 10 marker questions have to be written in 150 words. So that is the breakup. And the 2 10 marker questions we are dealing with, one was on Indian diaspora, and this question on Indian diaspora was concerned with the diaspora of India that is in Americas and Europe, and how they are playing a very important role in the political as well as economic sphere of the countries of which they are a part. So one question on Indian diaspora, and the other question was on the handling of COVID-19 by WHO. So this was the breakup of questions. Now let us see that how these questions have come to be and from which part of the syllabus they are connected to. So we can see very well that the IR syllabus in GS paper 2 is demarcated into 4 major areas. One is India's relationship with its neighbors. Secondly, which has 2 parts, one is Indian diaspora. On this a question has come. And the other is about the bilateral, regional and global groupings and the impact of policies of developed and developing countries on India. So from this portion on also we had 2 questions. So one from diaspora and 2 from India-US relationship and India-Russia defense relationship. So on that a question has come, and the other question on important grouping, which was Quad. Then from important international institutions, one question has come, which is on WHO. So we can see in 2019 similar breakup was there, while in 2018 we had 2 questions from India and its neighborhood relationship as well. So generally this is a very important area of the syllabus, and even this year there was this expectation that because India-China tension was looming and also India had border issues with Nepal, so maybe a question would be asked from this area as well. But UPSC has given a surprise. It has not gone for India and its neighborhood relationship question, and instead it has focused on Indo-Pacific, from where 2 major questions have been asked, one directly on Quad and the other on defense relationship between India, US and India, Russia. So this has been more or less the trend that you can see here, and generally for last 2 years UPSC is maintaining this trend in international relations. Now let us also see that from where the questions have come and their relevance, that whether we could have predicted that these questions would be asked or not. So the first question that has been asked is about the handling of COVID-19 by WHO. So this was very much in news. So it was highly expected. So how WHO has handled or mishandled, as some people have said, and even there was this US withdrawal from WHO. So this question was more or less on expected lines. Then another question that we had on Indian diaspora. Now this was a bit of surprise because the Indian diaspora, normally UPSC is asking a question related to that, and this is an important topic of the syllabus as well. But the surprising element here was that the Indian diaspora, because of this COVID-19 crisis, which was more in news and more in focus, was the one in West Asia, who were facing a lot of issues and challenges due to this COVID-19, because in West Asia there was this oil price decline plus this COVID-19 induced lockdown and the slowdown in economy. So both of these factors were impacting the West Asian migrants from India. So UPSC has not asked on this, but it has instead asked about the Indian diaspora, which is based in Europe and Americas. And this can also be linked to the election or the recent times where important people or important positions, political positions, have been occupied by people of Indian origin in countries such as UK, US, Canada, New Zealand, and so on. Plus always you have the Caribbean countries where Indians are holding important positions. So that ways this question was also little bit surprising as to what was asked, but maybe it was asked because of Kamala Harris, who is of Indian origin, a person of Indian origin who is now the Vice President elect of United States. So maybe that was the linkage which UPSC has drawn. For the remaining two questions, we can see that Indo-Pacific has been the interest area for UPSC. And here in Indo-Pacific, the one question which UPSC has asked is about Quad. But again, UPSC has been has given us a surprise in asking not just about its security element, which is its primary aim. So they have asked about its transformation into a trade grouping or a trade bloc. And again, UPSC did not ask about RCEP, which was in news and India has walked out of it. But instead it has focused on Quad, which was again in news because of the upgradation to ministerial level of Quad by the four countries, which are India, US, Japan and Australia. Now this was about the Quad question, and another question that has been asked is about the defense deals of India with US and India with Russia, but it has been asked again in context of Indo-Pacific. So with both US and Russia, India has a lot of defense ties, close defense ties with both the countries. Now both US and Russia, they are antagonistic to each other, but at the same time there is another element in this relationship, which is China. So while Russia has a very cozy relationship with China, US and China have been on the loggerheads. So this makes it very interesting, and when it is asked in context of Indo-Pacific, then obviously for India, the relationship which is having more value right now when we talk about Indo-Pacific, and especially with the China threat, it is India-US defense ties. So that was the context in which these 4 questions have been asked. Now let us see one by one all of these 4 questions and how we should be going about answering them. Now let us see the first question. So the question is, what is the significance of Indo-US defense deals over Indo-Russian defense deals? Discuss with reference to stability in the Indo-Pacific region. And the answer has to be written within 250 words, and the marks allotted for this are 15. So one thing that we need to keep in mind while writing any answer in mains is that we have to make sure that we follow the word limit. And following the word limit means or doesn't mean that we count each and every word that we are writing, but we should have a general idea that in a single line how many words we are writing. If we are writing around 10 words, then that means our answer should be ideally covered in 25 lines. So 25 into 10, 250, and plus minus 20-30 words is okay. So we need not be very hung up on this that our answer has become 220 words or it has shot up to 280 words. But we should try that we stick to 250-260 words for these questions. So that is one thing. Other very important thing that we need to keep in mind while answering questions in mains is to understand what the question is demanding and answer as per the demand of the question. So here in this question, it is asking us the significance of Indo-US defense deals over Indo-Russian defense deals. Now we know that both US and Russia have been or are India's major defense partners, and India purchased a lot of military hardware from both Russia as well as US. But in this question, we have to tell the significance of Indo-US defense deals over Indo-Russian defense deals. And the second part is, so the question is in 2 parts. That is part 1, that we have to tell what is the significance of Indo-US defense deals over Indo-Russian defense deals. And the second question is, or the second part is, discuss with reference to stability in the Indo-Pacific region. So when we read the second part, we come to know that though the question is divided into 2 parts, but both parts are interconnected. That means even while answering the first part, we need to keep in mind the context, and that context is Indo-Pacific region or stability in Indo-Pacific region. How that makes Indo-US defense deals more significant as compared to Indo-Russian defense deals. So any answer in mains should be about intro, body of answer, and conclusion. Sometimes you can actually let go of intro if you are running short of time, or you can come straight to the point. So introduction is something which can be 1-2 lines or even 2-3 lines for a 250 words question. But this body has to be there, and conclusion is very important. This must be there. So conclusion should always be summing up of your answer. So you have to sum up the argument of your answer. And this is very important because without conclusion, your answer will remain half and you will not get the marks that you should get otherwise. So conclusion will be very important in all of these mains answer writing. So now let us see what is the significance of Indo-US defense deals over Indo-Russian defense deals and how we should approach this question. So this question is asking us about Indo-Pacific. So first of all, we should be clear about what is Indo-Pacific. The question is asking us that for the stability of Indo-Pacific region, how Indo-US defense deals are more significant than Indo-Russian defense deals. So Indo-Pacific region. Now the Indo-Pacific region, as per India's understanding, starts right from the east coast of Africa and it stretches up to the west coast of America. So here we have the Indian Ocean, we have Bay of Bengal, we have Arabian Sea here, and then we have here the Pacific Sea. So this is India's conception of Indo-Pacific region. Earlier, US had this idea that Indo-Pacific is from Bay of Bengal stretching up to its west coast. But now US has also agreed to what India thinks of Indo-Pacific region, its extent. So basically this question is dealing with how India-Russia defense deals are less significant than India-US defense deals. So that we have to answer. So for this question, what we should do? We are clear that in recent times what has happened. So in intro what we can write is that in recent years we have seen that India-US defense deals, they have increased, while the India-Russia defense deals, they have declined. And this decline is more so because earlier Russia was India's sole major defense supplier, and this was true for a long time. But now with India-US relations improving, the things have changed, and for some years US actually displaced Russia as India's major defense supplier. So a lot of military hardware India is purchasing from both US and from Russia. So this we should be highlighting in this answer, but at the same time we have to highlight that when it comes to Indo-Pacific or stability in Indo-Pacific, then India's worldview or India's view of Indo-Pacific, it converges with US, because both US and India realize that Indo-Pacific region should remain rules based. There should be freedom of navigation. So these are the kind of terms that you should use. Freedom of overflight. So that should be there. It should be a free, open and prosperous Indo-Pacific region. So that is what India and US have in mind when they talk about Indo-Pacific. And obviously when they talk about Indo-Pacific, then and when they talk about a rules-based order in Indo-Pacific, then the country that is most troubled by that is China. And again, what are the dynamics of relationship that you should bring about in your answer? That is India, US, and the third country is China. This dynamic versus Russia, China, China, and here the third country is US. So in both these cases, India and China, they are facing problems. US and China, they are engaged in a trade war. So both of this is bringing India and US closer together. Similarly, Russia and US mutual antagonism, China and US mutual antagonism. So that is also bringing Russia and China closer. So that is why when it comes to Indo-Pacific or stability of Indo-Pacific, then India's defense deals become more important, or India's defense deals with US, they gain more prominence as compared to India-Russia defense deals, because Russia and China, they are enjoying very cozy relationship, and that is based on mutual distrust of US. So this also we can highlight that this is why when we talk about this Indo-Pacific region and stability in Indo-Pacific region, then obviously India-US defense relationship are more important. Plus, you can also highlight the fact that India and US have also signed 4 foundational defense agreements, which includes GSOMIA, General Security of Military Information Agreement, which was signed in 2002. Then we signed the second one, which was Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement 2016. Then we signed the Communication Compatibility and Security Arrangement in 2018. And now in 2020, we have signed Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement. So when we talk about Indo-Pacific, then obviously India has this grouping Quad, or India is part of Quad, where US is also a partner. So that also makes it more logical for India to give more preference to its defense deals with US as compared to Russia in the context of Indo-Pacific stability or Indo-Pacific region's stability. So in that context, India's relationship with US is more important, because Russia and China are in a cozy relationship. And we can also cite this fact that when India and China were facing tensions in LAC, line of actual control, US was vocal against China's expansionism and China's aggression, whereas Russia only talked about having a dialogue between India and China. So it did not condemn China's aggressive behavior. So all this makes it very clear that when Indo-Pacific region is concerned, then India's defense deals with US are more important, because these 4 foundational agreements will allow for more or better interoperability for India and US military forces. And that will happen because a lot of military hardware India is purchasing from US, and now with these agreements in place, India will also get access to a lot of intelligence and other communication from US. So that is also going to be very handy in countering the Chinese threat in Indo-Pacific region. So these are all the points that we can make in this particular question, and this we should write. So now let's look at the second question that we are going to discuss. So the second question, which again came for 15 marks and was to be written in 250 words, concerns the quadrilateral security dialogue. So again, it was about the Indo-Pacific. So this year UPSC has asked 2 questions in mains concerning Indo-Pacific region, and this Indo-Pacific region has been in news, and especially this quadrilateral security dialogue. This was in news because in last year, that is in 2020, the quadrilateral security dialogue was also upgraded to ministerial level. So if we look at its probability of being asked in exam, so it was very high that a question on quadrilateral security dialogue was expected. So this question was on expected lines, but the surprising part has been the way in which UPSC has framed this question. So UPSC has asked that this quadrilateral security dialogue, or Quad, is transforming itself into a trade bloc from a military alliance in present times. Discuss. Now the surprising thing here is that the Quad countries, they do not feel that it is a military alliance. They always say that we are not forming a military alliance. We do not have any military aims as such. And we want a peaceful and stable rules-based Indo-Pacific region. That is what the Quad members say. It is China which keeps on saying that it is a Asian NATO. So China tries to dismiss Quad as an Asian NATO. This is what China says. But this is the language that UPSC has used, and we need to be careful about that. And about it being a trade bloc, so again the question that raises is, it is basically a security grouping as of now, but it has strong elements which are concerned with trade dynamics in Indo-Pacific region. and the reason being the overwhelming presence of China in the Indo-Pacific region and with the trade with all these four countries which form this Quad grouping. So first of all, for any answering that we need to do in mains, we need to gauge the demand of the question. So let us understand what the question is asking us. So question is saying that Quad is transforming itself into a trade bloc from a military alliance in present times, and we need to discuss it. So again, the keyword here is discuss. So we should be clear what we need to write when we are faced with a directive word or a command word, which is discuss. So discuss basically means that for any given statement or any given situation, we need to look at both sides, the pros and cons, or maybe in this case, the favorable things or the evidences which support that Quad is transforming itself into a trade bloc, and again evidences that it continues to be a military or security alliance. So in these two parts we can divide while we are answering this question. So basically in this question we need to keep in mind few things when we answer it. So let's see how Quad is transforming itself into a trade bloc. So Quad as trade bloc. So what are the evidences in favor of this, and what are the evidences in favor of Quad still being a security or military alliance? So basically here we can cite that the trade relations that these four major democracies which form the Quad grouping, they have with China. So US China, huge trade deficit, and that is why US and China are also engaged in a trade war. Then if we talk about India, again India runs a huge trade deficit with China, and India also wants to decouple itself from China after the Chinese aggression in line of actual control. Then when we talk about Japan, China is its second largest trade partner. So China also doesn't want this dependency on China. And if we talk about Australia, it is the largest trade partner for Australia. So if we see all these four countries of Quad, they are having very huge economic relations or economic ties with China. And all of these countries have realized, because the question is also asking us about present times, that what is the nature of Quad in present times. So in present times, what has happened? A major event has happened, that is this COVID-19 pandemic. Again, the origin was traced to, or it is alleged that it is China's handiwork. US has been saying that China is behind this pandemic. So any which way, COVID-19 pandemic, which has affected the entire world and affected the global economy. So one thing has come into sharp focus, that is the entire world's dependence on China, because China, all the global supply chains, they are passing through China. So that is why a grouping like Quad, which wants a Indo-Pacific region to be free, open and prosperous. So prosperous means, and free and open, all of these are basically hinting at the trade relations in this part of the world, because major trade is passing through this Indo-Pacific region, and all the countries which are forming part of Quad, they want it to be free, open and prosperous. And for that, it is important that no one single country is able to exercise a veto over the trade relations. And that is basically China. And now what has happened in recent times is that RCEP, which is world's largest FTA as of now, 15 members, India has walked out of it. So, but still 2 members of Quad, Japan and Australia, continue to be part of RCEP. So all of this shows that China is establishing its dominance over the trade arena, and that is why Quad is also trying to form offshoots such as Quad Plus, which includes other similar minded countries. Like for example, Quad Plus dialogue was held recently, which included the Quad countries plus New Zealand, Vietnam and South Korea. So this also can be cited in the answer, that through this the Quad is trying to become more of a grouping which has more than military as its basis, and it is gradually becoming more open to other countries of the world. So that goes in favor of the argument that Quad is changing its nature from just being a security grouping to also being a trade bloc. So that we can cite. But on the other hand, what continues to keep it a security alliance is the fact that all the 4 countries, they participated in this Malabar exercise recently, and US has continued to be vocal against Quad being a forum to contain China. So these are the examples on the other side that you can cite. Finally, for this question, we should conclude in a manner that yes, it is evident that Quad is not just a military alliance, but through initiatives such as the Quad Plus, the aim is to bring more countries which are like-minded together in its fold, that no single country like China can control or veto the trade relations in this part of the world, which is Indo-Pacific region. So this is how we should be answering this question. Now let's move on to the next question. Now the next question that has been asked by UPSC in GS paper 2 deals with WHO's response to COVID-19 pandemic. And the question is asking us critically examine the role of WHO in providing global health security during the COVID-19 pandemic. So again, a kind of straightforward question and a highly expected question at that, because COVID-19 pandemic has been the most significant news of entire 2020. And also WHO was at the center of this COVID-19 pandemic, because at the international level, this was the agency of UN which was responsible for handling this COVID-19 pandemic. And there were some allegations against it, especially by US, which kind of accused WHO of helping China and not telling the whole truth about this pandemic. So this led to a lot of problems between US and China, which were already engaged in a trade war. And due to this COVID-19 pandemic, President Trump further tried to press upon the point that WHO is taking the side of China and not coming out with the whole truth, and which could have led to better handling of the pandemic and maybe also to less loss of lives which were seen. So in this particular question, what we need to see that first of all, the word that comes, the directive word, is critically examine. So examine means to look at something very closely. We have to look closely at what the statement is. So, the role of WHO in providing global health security during the COVID-19 pandemic. But this is examine. When we have to critically examine, that means we need to see what might be obvious plus what might not be that obvious. So both the things we need to look at. So now let us see how we will go about answering this question, or how we should be approaching this particular question. So the role of WHO in providing global health security during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now WHO is the specialized agency of UN to concerned with global health issues. And WHO is the agency which classifies any disease as a pandemic. So it has a set criteria. Now there is one criticism of WHO which we can mention in this answer, is that WHO was little late in declaring it a pandemic when there was overwhelming evidence, but it took its own time in declaring it a pandemic, and countries like US said that this was done by WHO because WHO was favoring China. So this is an allegation that US made, and US also withdrew from WHO, which the coming president of US, Joe Biden, he has said that he will review the decision and most probably will take it back. So US will continue to be part of WHO. So let us look at what we should be writing in this answer, how we should be approaching it. So again, because this is a question of 10 marks and 150 words, so we have very less words in which we need to write the answer. So we can come straight to the point that WHO is handling, and we need to critically examine. So some of the important points that we can mention here are like this, that we have to examine WHO's handling of COVID-19, critically examine. So we need to see where it has done well and where it could have done better. So where it has done well, so here we can cite certain things such as coordinating the global efforts. So it was telling all the countries that do not take it lightly, COVID-19 is serious and you should gear up your health infrastructure to take care of it. So coordinating global health response, that it did. Then it also came up with things like a solidarity trial to check out treatments and medicines which could work in treating this disease. So solidarity trials that were conducted under the leadership of WHO. Then it also came up with a solidarity response fund to provide for the essential health equipments to all the countries, especially low and middle income countries. So solidarity response fund. Then another thing you can mention is the COVAX alliance, which is again jointly led by WHO to provide vaccine to countries and people who cannot afford it. So these are the areas where WHO has done decently well in handling this pandemic. Now let us see some of the areas where WHO could have done better. So these areas are basically where there have been a lot of allegations of WHO not doing its work properly. And one major criticism of WHO has been over the years that it is a UN agency which knows everything but does nothing. So that is little bit harsh on WHO. But still in this case we can say that WHO could have done better. So there was this one issue of delay in declaration of pandemic. And for this largely China was responsible, because the information was coming from China. WHO did not have any independent source of verification or making China give information faster. It could only ask for the information, and China was taking its own sweet time to deliver it. So there was this delay in declaration of pandemic because WHO termed it as a public health emergency of international concern on January 30, and only on March 30 it was upgraded to pandemic status. So there was this delay in declaration of pandemic by WHO. And the second criticism that can be said, which is somewhat unfair on WHO, because international regulations now mandate that the virus or any such thing which has a negative which can have a negative impact on any country should not be named after that country. So this naming of the virus, naming of virus and disease by WHO, that was also criticized by some people, especially President Trump, when he said that WHO was favoring China by not naming it as China virus. So that was also a criticism. But overall, when we conclude this answer, we have to make sure that in conclusion, we make this point that largely WHO has largely done well, though there were some missteps by WHO, as this pandemic has been unprecedented. The world has not seen anything like this for a very long time. So there were some missteps, but overall WHO has largely done a good job. And we can also write about some of the reforms, because ultimately this question is hinting at what reforms need to be undertaken. So the challenges that the WHO is basically facing are on two fronts basically. One is on funding. So only 25% of the funding is coming from the governments, which are its members. Rest of the funding, it is coming from voluntary contribution of donor countries and organizations such as Bill Gates and Melinda Foundation. So these organizations and these donor countries, they have their own agenda, and because WHO is dependent on these funds, so sometimes the agenda gets hijacked by these countries and these donors. So that needs to be corrected. So there has to be reforms in WHO. And secondly, the functioning of WHO, that also needs to be better, more effective. And for that, we need to mention that the executive board, which is a technical body and which reports to World Health Assembly, which is the decision-making body of World Health Organization. This executive board, which is a technical body, it should be made a standing body and it should have wider representation. Right now, its representation is not that wide, because these pandemics and these diseases, they are affecting all the people of the world. So it should have wider representation of concerned countries. So these are two reforms that we can cite that WHO needs to reform itself, and this is how we should be answering this particular question. Now let's move on to the next question. So let's look at the final question that we are going to discuss from international relations. And this question is about the Indian diaspora. And it says that Indian diaspora has a decisive role to play in the politics and economy of America and European countries. And we need to comment with examples. Again, this is a 10 marker, so the answer has to be written within 150 words. That means around 15 lines if you are writing 10 words in one line. So now let's see how we should approach this question. So first of all, we need to understand what is the demand of this question. So the question is about Indian diaspora, and it says that it has a decisive role to play in the politics as well as economics of two places it has taken, which is America and Europe. So this question has been asked about the Indian diaspora which is present in America and Europe, and it says that the diaspora or the Indian diaspora in these countries of America and Europe, they have to play a decisive role in the politics and economy of these countries. So which is very evident because the Indian diaspora in these countries is a model diaspora. And here we should also be clear about the meaning of this word diaspora. So diaspora basically literally means to scatter. So when the people are scattered in different places, so we have this word diaspora, and this basically used to refer to the Jewish diaspora who were forced to go away from their original land, which was in Jerusalem. So they got displaced from their original land, and then they spread to all over the world. So this term originally used to refer to the Jewish diaspora, but now it has become a generic word, and this refers to British diaspora, Chinese diaspora, Indian diaspora, and so on. In the world, if we see, then the biggest diaspora is the British diaspora, followed by Chinese diaspora, and after that we have Indian diaspora, which is around 20 million strong and spread over 75 countries. So this we should know. And in this question, what we need to answer is that how they are going to play a decisive role, because we have and we need to give examples as well. So when we talk about America, it includes US, Canada, and other countries like the Caribbean countries, because we are looking at America as a continent. Then we have Europe. So here also we have countries like UK, Germany, France, Netherlands, and so on. The European countries. So how is Indian diaspora placed in these places, and how they are going to play a decisive role in the politics and economy of the place? Now, the examples that we can cite here are people like, obviously, Miss Kamala Harris, who is going to be and this, first of all, let's see the political sphere, that how Indian diaspora is making a mark. So Kamala Harris, the Vice President elect of US. Then we have other people like Nick Haley. Then we have Bobby Jindal. Then we have, if we talk about UK, then we have Mr. Rishi Sunak, who is the finance minister, called as Chancellor of the Exchequer in UK. Then we have Ms. Priti Patel, who is a MP in UK. And there are many MPs of Indian origin in UK. as well as there are many senators and House of Representative members in US. Similar is the case of Canada, where many people of Indian origin are in the Canadian Parliament. In fact, the Prime Minister of Canada, Mr. Trudeau, he joked that he has more people of Sikh origin in his cabinet than the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi. So that is the kind of dominance that people of Indian origin or Indian diaspora, they are having the political sphere of countries in America and in Europe. So they are very much active politically. Plus, if we look at the economy, then here also we can see that the people of Indian origin or the Indian diaspora is doing very well. So we have examples like Mr. Sundar Pichai of Google. Then we have Miss Indra Nooyi, who was earlier with PepsiCo, the CEO of PepsiCo, former. Then we have Mr. Satya Nadella, Microsoft, and so on. So then we have in the economic field, if we come to Europe, we have people like Mr. Lakshmi Nivas Mittal, who is a business tycoon, Hinduja Brothers, again a big business family of UK. So we can see that the Indian diaspora is having its presence both in political as well as in the economic field. So when you have presence in both these arenas, they are sure to play a decisive role. And plus, the Indian diaspora has been playing a very active role in promoting India's interest. And that is why the Indian government is also keen on engaging the diaspora. So when the nuclear deal was being talked with US, then also the Indian diaspora played a key role. So the Indian diaspora has played a very important role, and it not only in promoting India's interests abroad, but also playing a major role in the politics and economy of the countries of which they are a part. So that is what we should write in this answer, and these are the examples. Some of these can be cited in the answer. Finally, while concluding, we need to again come back to the question and see that yes, the Indian diaspora is playing a very important role for the countries of which they are a part. Plus, they have not let go of their ties with their country of origin, which is India. And the Indian government is also trying to harbor those ties. So that is how you should conclude this particular question. So this was all about the discussion of the IR segment, where we had 4 questions, and all these 4 questions could be answered well. And international relations, as we can see, most of these questions are having a direct connect with the current affairs. So most of these questions were highly predictable, especially the one asked on WHO, the one asked on Quad, and the defense deals comparison between US and Russia in context of Indo-Pacific. So at least these 3 questions were such which could have been were on the expected lines and could be answered easily. The Indian diaspora one was little bit surprising because our expectation was that the question will be directed at the West Asian diaspora of Indian community that is present there, because they were facing a lot of issues. But maybe because of this US election and Kamala Harris going on to become the first person of Indian origin to be Vice President of US, so that may have prompted UPSC to ask this question. So that was all from my side. Thank you.